Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sports Today. It's an early morning start for me today in terms of coverage of live sport because, well, that's the timings that the sporting events are going on. And boy, do I have some very big and historic news for you. The Indian badminton doubles duo of Satwik-Chirag, Ranki Reddy, and Chirag Shetty have created history at Tokyo. You heard that right. They've created history at Tokyo. They have become the first ever Indian men's doubles medalists at the World Championships. They are India's first ever, and I have to repeat this is the first time that an Indian duo are winning a medal in the men's doubles at the BWF World Championships. So massive news there, and the way that they've actually secured that medal was nothing short of amazing because they were up against it in the quarterfinals. Yes, we know that Satwik and Chirag have been on a roll recently. Remember they had won gold in the Commonwealth Games as well, but this was always going to be a very tough match for them in the quarterfinals because they were up against not only home favorites in Takuro Hoki and Yugo Kobayashi, but the Japanese duo were not only home favorites, they were also the defending champions. Yes, you heard that right. The defending champions have been knocked out by Satwik-Chirag, Ranki Reddy and Chirag Shetty. So that's a massive achievement for the Indian pair. They've managed to secure themselves a medal. Remember how it works in the Worlds is that if you make it to the semis, you are guaranteed of at least a bronze medal. And not only have they managed to secure a medal in that regard, it's India's first ever medal at the men's doubles event in the Badminton World Championships. Of course, we'd be hoping that they could go further, but as one of our commenters is pointing out, they'll have to play a Malaysian pair. How exactly they fare in that particular match is something that remains to be seen. But the simple fact of the matter is, you could actually say that they are among the favorites. Remember, they've knocked out the defending champions, and it's a pretty massive victory in that regard. Because if you go over how exactly they managed to get done with this match, it was anything but an easy win. So the first game was very competitive. It was consistently back and forth. At one point, it looked like the Indian duo were easily cruising to a win, but then the Japanese duo fought back hard. So it was very back and forth. And in the end, despite the fact that, at one point it seemed like the Japanese pair were close to, sealing the first game, Satwik and Chirag fought back very hard, and they ended up winning 24-22. So it didn't even finish in the 21 pointers. They had to take it to 24-22, and that's how they won the first game. You think that maybe after that they would have actually, momentum was definitely on their side. Unfortunately, second game 15-21, they ended up losing. So match was going to a decider after that point. But in the third game, and this is very important, is that in the third game they absolutely upped the ante and they were relentless, especially after taking the lead in the mid-game break, because they had taken an 11-6 lead. So they were comfortably ahead in that regard. So it wasn't a problem. But even after that, like after the mid-game break, there was a bit of a controversy where the chair umpire actually ruled that the Indian pair had committed a net touch. Unfortunately, slow-mo replays showed that it wasn't actually the racket touching the net. Anyway, it couldn't be reviewed, so there was no problem there in that regard. So what was happening is that, they ended up, that controversy tended to spur them on just a little bit, because what happened after that was that they won 5 or 6 points on the trot. They ended up sealing the match pretty comfortably in the end. In fact, the last game was the most comfortable in terms of margins because they ended up winning it 21-14. So the breaking news update, in case you're just joining us on this particular video, on this live, is that Satwik-Chirag, Ranki Reddy and Chirag Shetty have made history by becoming the first Indian duo to actually win a medal at the BWF World Championships. They're guaranteed a bronze medal, having made it to the semi-finals. However, they would doubtless be wanting to go on better, make the final, and potentially guarantee themselves a silver, or at least compete, or potentially even win the gold. Whether or not that happens, that remains to be seen. For those of you asking, HS Pranoy will be in action later on. I'll be bringing you the live updates from that match as it happens. And speaking of updates, there is unfortunately a slightly there's a slightly heartbreaking update if you're an Indian fan, because you remember over the last few days we were talking about the young Indian duo of Dhruv Kapila and MR Arjun, Well, they ended up losing out in the quarterfinals, but they lost out. That was earlier today, by the way. They ended up losing. To a pretty experienced duo of Mohammad Ahsan and Hendra Setyawan. They're of course referred to as the daddies of They're of course referred to fondly as the daddies. So Dhruv Kapila and Arjun MR knocked out. They were this close to securing another medal. Not meant to be, but they've also done pretty good considering that they've absolutely shot to prominence. They knocked out last year's bronze medalists, so they've done well. But the big news, if you're just joining us, of course, Satwik-Chirag, Raki Reddy, and Chirag Shetty. Remember these names; they're India's first ever medalists in the men's doubles event at the BWF World Championships. Don't forget, there will of course be HS Pranay coming. I'll be tracking that with you guys as well and bringing you the updates and discussions as and when it does happen. Join me for that. Right now I'm taking your leave, but thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and of course subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Tap the bell icon so you know when we're going live or uploading a new video for you guys. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Last but not least, download the SportsTech app for more such breaking news updates at the tip of your fingers. Thank you all so much for joining me. Bye bye for now.